Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever, whenever you're listening to this show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming you to episode 221 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. And what a week it's been. So much going on. It looks like the Obama regime is crumbling around him, but just unbelievable. And of course, what does their leader do? That's right, he goes out and plays a round of golf. Yeah, you know what it's like. When the going gets tough, the tough get going, and dear leader goes out and plays a round of golf. Yeah. Well, just shows what a wimp, what a useless piece of bottom-feeding yuck he really is. And for tonight, I want to start off with some commentary on something that really riled me up, and it's really it's been going a little bit, so it's not all that new, and it's but I'm just so disappointed that you don't see more people bringing this up. Well, you know, what would you expect from the lamestream media? Well, I'd like to think that there are still a few journalists with integrity there, and why don't they bring this up? Are they all in the pocket of the regressive regime? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, and actually my commentary is very simple. We can spend $2 billion feeding, clothing, looking after illegals, and yet the military, the vets, get nothing, right? No money available for them. Don't you think that is just absolutely disgusting? And we're going to talk about some of the things that are going on around these illegals that are flooding our border, what could be done about it, etc. But the very simple thing is, and I've got some examples, things that could have been done for the vets and haven't been done in years, and yet happen overnight for all these illegals streaming across the border. And of course, the regressives are very clever. They tug at our heartstrings. They tell us, oh, you know, this is humanitarian. These poor little children, you can't do anything to them. You know, they've come so far. They want to be here. They need to be with their parents or their family or everything. BS, folks. Those kids need to be put on a plane and flown back to where they came from immediately. And, well, let's talk about what we can do about it. There's a lot that could be done. First of all, the State Department ought to be involved and ought to be broadcasting the message that whatever people are hearing in these Central American countries, that if you get across the border you can stay, you are not going to stay. You are going to be deported back again. So we should start taking these kids, packaging them up in a plane, preferably one of those, nothing comfortable, one of those military freighters, strap them into that, take them to the country where they came from and dump them there. Instead of dumping them at bus stations in Arizona, they should be dumped on the airport of the country where they came from. And if we don't know where they came from, well, too bad. Take them back to any country back there, or put them over the Mexican border and let Mexico sort it out for even letting them come through their country. So we should put pressure on Mexico and tell them, you let these people come through, we're pulling our aid to you. We're going to stop supporting you, and we'll, you're not going to get money from us. We're going to not let your people come here and work. Well, we shouldn't be doing that anyway if they're illegals, but and we'll stop giving visas. Same to these Central American countries. If they don't accept the kids back, say, okay, fine. That's the end of aid, because all of the money that we're paying you for aid is now going to go to pay for the kids that you've sent to us. That's what we should be doing. So we should have the State Department going out and in the media in those countries saying, don't come because you're going to get sent back. We should be withholding visas from those countries. If Honduras says, we don't want these kids back, we say, fine, okay. No more aid, no more visas. Your people can't come to America. Even business people, even normal people, just shut it off. Shut it down. That will get their attention very quickly. And now, of course, would the regime even think of doing that? Not a hope in hell. Don't hold your breath, folks, because they want to do this. This is Cloward and Piven on steroids. This is all deliberate. Everybody says, oh no, how this is an unintended consequence of the the deferred DACA, the deferred whatever act, deferring the deportation of these kids. It's just a byproduct. No, they knew this was going to happen, and they got no intention of stopping it. The more people they can get in here, the more they can get sucking off the teat of the government, the better it'll be, because if not in 2 years, maybe in 5 years, in 10 years, they have all those people will get, they'll find a way to give them citizenship, because the lily-livered Republicans won't stand up to them. They'll give them citizenship, and then they'll start voting Democrat, because it was the Democrats that, the Regressives that sucked them in here, and then we can forget about this country for the rest of the century. So we've got to stop this now. We've got to nip it in the bud, and there's so many things that we can do, but the main thing is to keep the pressure on our lawmakers. They have lost touch with us, and part of that is our fault, because we think calling them, phoning them, emailing them doesn't have any effect. Well, I'll tell you what is less productive. Sending them a written letter is less productive, because it takes 6 weeks for it to go through all the checks before it'll even get into the hands of your legislator, thanks to all the stupid people who send envelopes with white powder, etc. So normal snail mail isn't much good. Faxes are kind of okay if you've got access to a fax machine, and there are groups out there that will do it for you. Some will do a few free, others you have to pay for. Faxes is a way to do. But phone calls, other than your long distance charges, are free. Call Washington. Call the local office, especially call your local senator, your local congressman. Call them and leave a message. If you're calling their local office, just leave a message and say what you think. The staffers in the offices keep tally. Now, call an Alan Grayson and tell him that you don't want him to support Obamacare and all, some of the other nutty things he does. It's not going to help a lot, but they have to keep count. They will know that quite a lot of people called. You never know. It might make him tone down his rhetoric if he sees how many people are against a particular thing. So you do need to keep up the pressure. And the other one, of course, is if you have the wherewithal, go up to Washington. Wander the halls. I was surprised. I've been up there in a couple of years ago when 2010 and when Obamacare was coming in, part of the protests against Obamacare. And I was surprised, you can get in quite easily. You've got to go through the metal detector. But once you're in, you can wander the halls, find out where your legislators are, find out where the good guys are. People like Ted Cruz, Steve King. Now, Ted Cruz wasn't up there when I was up there, but Steve King was, and he was very open, very friendly, even though I'm not from Iowa. But he was open to talking to everyone. So, get up there, let them hear our message. The Washington elites are disconnected from the people that they represent to a certain extent. And part of that's our fault. So let's us get out there and say, okay, folks, please listen to what I've got to say and share it with the other legislators. Tell them to do that. Anyway, so that was, that was part of my rant for the day. Now I've got some good news things. So I do want to tell you about that. Before I do that, I want to say hi to the folks in the chat room. I see Rex has arrived, my favorite author, and he welcome Rex. Good to see you. If you're listening live, please do join us in the chat room. You can put your questions, comments about what I'm saying by clicking on the little green speech button at the bottom right-hand page of the bottom part of the page. Now, I keep saying that, and Rex, correct me if I'm wrong, because that's on my dashboard, on my presenter's dashboard, that I have that little green speech bubble. So I'm going to have to go into somebody else's Spreaker show and find out where the button for the chat room is. But there is a button to click somewhere, and like I said, if you're listening live, please do let me know that you're out there. Questions, comments, or interact with the other people in the chat room. They often have far more interesting discussions than anything that I'm saying. On the other hand, if I know I have a lot of listeners who are unable to listen live, they listen to the recordings, listen to Red State Talk Radio, and I do thank you for listening. But if you want to react with me later in the show, I'll tell you how you can contact me. And Rex is saying same here, so I'm assuming, yes, there is a little green speech, like a little green speech bubble. And if you click on that, that will get you the chat room. So thanks for that, Rex. And one final thing before we go back to the news. If you whether you're listening live, whether you're listening to the recordings, the rebroadcasts, or whatever, please do remember to tell your friends. Being in the broadcasting business, I found out it's all about the numbers, and I just love to get my numbers up. So, but the main thing is, yes, I'd like to get my numbers up, but I'd like to get this message, or the messages of these shows out. Every show is a different one. New messages every time, so please, tell your friends. Let's get the message out there, because we have to win, and we have to win big in November. Okay, folks, on to the next item of the news. And the other item that I want to talk about right now just has to be the lost emails. First of all, it was Lois Lerner, 2 years worth of emails lost. Yeah, right. And now there are 6 others, and they keep saying, well, it's a hard drive crash on the computer of the people. Folks, this is total BS as well. The regime is lying to you yet again. They keep lying. They are physically incapable of telling the truth. Email goes through servers. Servers are backed up. They have to be backed up. Now, Cheryl Atkinson wrote a column and gave a whole list of things that we should be asking. Who's responsible for backing up the servers? Subpoena them. Find out what's going on. Which provider? Find out when any problems were reported. Who reported them? What was done about it? I mean, there's just tons and tons of stuff that should be done. It is just absolutely unbelievable that we are allowing this to take place. Now, let's think back a few years, and we have our dear friend Nixon lost, 18 minutes of tape, and basically that precipitated his impeachment. Now we've lost 2 years of emails. Is that not going to have an impact on the likelihood of impeachment of dear leader? Unfortunately, no. The Senate is, there's no way in hell the Senate will even think about impeaching him right now with Dingy Harry at the helm. And even when we get control in November 14, and I'm going to be positive about this, we will get control, but I suspect we will not get enough control to actually be able to impeach him. But folks, we ought to be doing that. Maybe that's another thing you should be telling your legislators, especially your senators, especially if they are left-wing senators. Okay, folks, it is time for a commercial break. So, stick with me while we play these messages. These messages do actually support the show, and if you use these products, I thank you for your support. So we'll be back in just a moment.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. That's 800-704-1662.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. That's 1-800-259-1409.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thanks for sticking with me. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. We have got a show full of all sorts of things today. And let's move on to the next topic. And of course, for that, we have my little interlude. And the next topic tonight is another one of those you couldn't write a movie script about this. People wouldn't believe it if you did it. So hopefully, as patriots, you will know that last Saturday was Flag Day, when we celebrate 1777, when Old Stars and Stripes, Old Glory was officially introduced by the American Congress and was accepted as the national flag of these United States. Now, our most unpatriotic party, of course, is the DNC, the Democratic Party, or the Regressives as they are at the moment. And the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, currently led by the unpatriotic Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz, decided that they were going to honor the American flag. Right? And remember, we celebrate Flag Day with real American flags and, of course, red, white, and blue. So the Democrat Party, the DNC, tweeted out a picture, and the flag that they had on there was not the American flag. No, it wasn't the Mexican flag or the Al-Qaeda flag, although that wouldn't have surprised me. No, it was a blue and white striped flag with a with a white star on the blue stripe. Now, I've never seen an American flag that has blue and white stripes. I've never seen one that has stars on the stripes. The stars are on a separate blue field with red and white stripes. I looked closely. Was it perhaps that the flag was folded in a strange way that made it look like it was stripes? No, it was definitely just a piece of blue and white striped cloth with stars on it. Can you believe how absolutely, totally nuts they must be to have done that? But, they are the regressives. Liberalism is a mental disease. They are mental, so we'll just have to live with that. Okay, another topic. And some good news for a change, or good news, hopefully some useful information, good information for you. We are assailed on all sides by people who want to restrict our gun rights and want gun control, etc. And all the stories in the mainstream media, anytime some nutcase goes on a rampage and shoots people up, and we've had, unfortunately, more than I would have liked in the last few months, of course, notice that 90% of these mass shootings all occur in gun-free zones. The Liberals will never admit to that. And another thing that Liberals will never admit to is that guns can save lives. So luckily there is someone out there who's collecting stories of how guns actually save lives, stories of self-defense. And if you didn't know about it, I would encourage you to go to this site. It's a great site, and it's a great one to scan every so often. And just the other day I was with someone, I wouldn't say they were a raving liberal, but they were someone who kind of parrots the mainstream media's trying to think of the right words here, parrots the mainstream's message about gun control and how we have to have more. And we got to talking about it, and I said, well, what we don't, he said, yeah, but of course it would be interesting to hear if actually people carrying guns did actually stop it. But you never hear about that, so I'm sure it doesn't happen. And I said, well, actually, I happen to know it does, because I've been following a number of cases a few months ago in Florida, and I had mentioned them on the show. So I told him about that, and I said, because I told him about the fact that 90 to 95% of all these mass shootings take place in gun-free zones. So I said the way to combat that is to not have gun-free zones and to have more people carrying guns, and then these nutcases are not going to be as quick to go out. And he admitted we went down a list of some of the more obvious mass shootings, starting with Aurora, but also some of the other ones, Sandy Hook, the school. And he agreed. All of them were in gun-free zones. So, and then I mentioned these situations in Florida where someone carrying a gun had managed to stop some kind of felony or some person shooting. Well, this site, gunsaveslives.net is the site. And like I said, go there every so often, find out what's gone on recently, what stories are about someone who with a gun was able to stop someone, a bad guy with a gun, because at the end of the line, it's always the good guys that will stop these crazies, right? Will stop the bad guys, not a law, because the bad guys just ignore the laws. So gunsaveslives.net, and as I said, use that in your arguments with liberals. And this person, when I went through the list, and he said, you're right. He actually agreed. Like I said, he wasn't a raving liberal, because a raving liberal will never agree with you, but he said, yeah, you're right. all the shootings have taken place in gun-free zones. There are there are situations where someone having a gun has stopped someone being shot. Maybe having guns isn't as bad as it sounds. Okay, let's see how we're doing. Well, we've got time for the next piece of interesting stuff, and I'd like to say that this is actually, I would say, pretty much good news. So let's go and see what that is. And the next item is something that Judge Napolitano has been talking about on Fox News, which is about the only place you'll get anything of this nature to see or to hear. And basically, he says that Dear Leader could face 10 years to life in prison. Ooh, wow. And he says that in no uncertain terms, Dear Leader broke the law under 2 separate statutes when he released the 5 prisoners from Guantanamo Bay last week. And he's not exempt from punishment. He said the law, first of all, the law requiring the president to give Congress 30 days notice before spending taxpayer funds on such a prisoner release is actually the lesser of the 2 legal sins. And I think I've mentioned this one before, it's actually the act of providing material assistance, in this case human assets, to the Taliban, because the Taliban has been identified by Congress to be a non-state terrorist organization. And that's a crime punishable by imprisonment of 10 years to life, and a sitting president has never been tried for such a breach since it has never happened before, but the law applies to every American, including the donkey in the White House. Now, Obama's not going to be challenged, and Napolitano agreed that. But the president is not above the law. Even though he thinks he's king and he is above the law and he can do what the hell he wants, he is wrong. And we need to rub it in his face that he is wrong. And wouldn't it be great if we could take him out of the White House and put him in jail, 10 to life, and preferably life rather than 10. Now, Napolitano is talking about what we know. You may remember last week I said I don't think that giving aid to the Taliban is the only thing that happened. I think that was a smokescreen, that was the basically the thing that was done to sort of absolve the government of any contact with the Haqqani network. And I still think that the Haqqani network was receiving money, albeit through third parties. I'm sure that Dear Leader made sure that it was routed through enough people that it would be difficult to trace. But deep down, I'm pretty certain that the Haqqani received a lot of money in exchange for Bergdahl. But in order to justify that, they had to release these 5 people. And of course, trying to be friends with the Taliban, as our dear Muslim leader wants to be, this was a good way to do it. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone, or 3 birds with 1 stone. Get Bergdahl back, give the Haqqani some money without being caught, and then also suck up to the Taliban. Now, but it's that giving money to the Haqqani. If we could prove that, then that 10 years to life would be life, because that is definitely aiding and abetting a terrorist organization, and that would be great to get him on that. Okay, folks, it's time for our next commercial break, I see. So let's just have a quick pause here, just for a couple of minutes, and I will be back right after these messages.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-865-5017. That's 1-800-865-5017. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-865-5017 for details.
Why spend more than you have to on your life insurance? Did you know that term life insurance rates have fallen over 60% in the last 15 years? At the Life Insurance Quote Line, we monitor the rates, features, and financial strength of hundreds of life insurance products. For example, a healthy 40-year-old can protect his family with $500,000 of 10-year level term for less than $20 a month. Rates for women are even lower. And don't forget to ask us about the new term life policies that guarantee your money back even if you don't die. Since 1986, we've helped tens of thousands of people just like you save a fortune on their life insurance. Why not find out how much you can save? Write down this number and call today for your free quote. 1 5-minute call is all it takes. Call 800-915-9734. 800-915-9734. That's 800-915-9734. Rates, policy forms, and availability vary by state.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thank you for sticking with me through that break. We're into the second half of the show. Time is flying along, and we've got so many topics to cover. But I do want to say thanks to all my listeners, and just a reminder: if you like the show, please tell your friends. If you don't like the show, please tell your friends anyway, because I'd like folks to get this message, and that's what I'm trying to do. I know a lot of these things that I talk about in the show, a lot of them, you may know one or two of the topics. You may not know all of them. You may know them. You may not know some of the background. I'm just trying to educate people and keep all these stories alive. We have to keep them alive and remind people how absolutely untrustworthy this regime is, and not just this regime, but the party behind it. The Democrat Party of old has been taken over by the Regressives, and they will do anything to stay in power, cheat, lie, and I'm going to have some examples. I've had examples in past shows. They seem physically incapable of actually telling the truth at any time. It's lie, 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 even when they don't need to. And we need to make people see this. I can't, that's one thing. I can't understand why people don't see this and sort of go, why would I even vote for these nutcases? They're just constantly lying. People seem to accept that. Anyway, thanks for listening. And as I said, a lot of my listeners do listen after the fact, after this live broadcast. So if you are listening and you'd like to, you agree or you disagree, or if you've got questions about some things I've been saying, feel free to contact me. And again, for those of you that are not listening live, here's how you can get hold of me. If you would like to comment on any of the topics discussed on the show, please email me via stephan@patrickcomelately.us, or go to the show's website, www.patrickcomelately.us, and click on the contact button. You can also write your comments on the show's Facebook page. Just search in Facebook for the Patrick Come Lately Show. And actually, I have to get that last little clip updated. The search you should do in Facebook if you want to contact me there. is just search on Patrick Come Lately. Don't put not Patrick Come Lately Show, but just do Patrick Come Lately. I think I mentioned a while back that Facebook threw off my Patrick Come Lately ID because I had two, my personal one, my political one, so I'm now doing everything through my personal one. But I have put the nickname in there, Patrick Come Lately, so you can find me there. So feel free to post on my timeline again, comments, questions, whatever. If you agree, disagree, love to hear from you, whether it's by email, whether it's via the website, whether it's via Facebook. Just love to hear from my listeners. And, well, let's go on. I think it's time for the next topic. We were talking about 10 years to life, but I'm going to go back to really the main topic at the moment that I think we have to be looking at, this disgusting lawlessness, basically, that's going on our southern border with this flood of refugees coming across. And what's especially galling to me is that, number one, you can argue it wasn't intended, it was an unintended consequence. I believe that it was intended, but that's my opinion, and you can have your own opinion. But there are facts which, to me, are absolutely disgusting, and I want to discuss some of those facts. And specifically, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the fact that all of a sudden we've got oodles of money available to help these so-called poor children, while we see this whole disgusting scandal around the Veterans Administration, where basically nothing was done right for the vets. And it gets worse, because let's think about how many homeless vets there are in this country. Thousands and thousands, probably more than this flood of kids coming across the border, at least at the levels we have now. 6 years ago, Dear Leader and Shinseki said they were going to get rid of veterans' homelessness. That was 6 years ago. A month ago, people realized that we had this flood of, that the numbers of children coming across the border were ratcheting up and were much higher than ever. Well, maybe it was 2 months ago. Maybe it was 3 months ago. Maybe it was 6 months ago, but it wasn't 6 years ago. This just happened in the last few months. And yet, all of a sudden, Dear Leader snaps his finger and military bases are being opened. People are being taken to military bases, and not just ones in the southern area. They're being flown up to Maine, to Kansas, so well away from the border, processed through there, and then released on their own recognizance, being told, well, you have to come back in 15 days. And I mentioned last week that basically these mostly uneducated laborers that are coming here, they're being told that piece of paper is actually their permission to stay in the U.S. They don't know. And believe me, I'm sure that the left-wing lawyers that are supporting them are not going to clarify things for them in any way. So they just say, okay, I've got this piece of paper, that means I can stay, and off they go, and they don't come back in the 15 days that they're supposed to. And talking about lawyers, not only have we having to do feeding and clothing for all these kids, Department of Justice now all of a sudden is hiring, a couple of hundred lawyers to go down and represent these kids on the border. Who's representing the vets who have been on these waiting lists and are dying? Nobody's doing that. Folks, why are you sitting around? Why are you not out on the streets protesting? We should be at the gates of the White House with torches and pitchforks. We should be making our voice known. We should be in Congress. I mean, this is just absolutely despicable, the way that this regime is treating our vets, treating our Constitution. and just letting these people come across the border. They're coming into the country. There are so many of them that basically the Border Patrol, ICE, right, the Customs and Immigration people are just taking their names, giving them a piece of paper and releasing them out into society without knowing whether they're terrorists, whether they're murderers, rapists. But worse than that, how about all the diseases that are coming in? Now, I know from being a legal immigrant that when you come in, we had to go through a very, very deep medical investigation to make sure that we were healthy. But the Border Patrol is saying there are people coming across with pink eye, scabies, tuberculosis. There are hundreds of sick people being released with tuberculosis into our society. This is a sickness that basically we had conquered, but by bringing all these people in, it's going to be spreading. And most people around now don't have resistance to tuberculosis. So that could be running rampant through the US before we know. I mean, this is just absolutely unbelievable. Well, as I said, you can either say this is an unexpected byproduct of the way that Barry has been mishandling our immigration laws. You can say that it's a predictable one. And and I lean towards it being predictable, that they knew it was going to happen. They thought it would be a good way to tug at people's heartstrings. So they are just, they're using children as pawns. And there are children as young as 3 years being sent by themselves. Now, how parents can do this, I don't know. But if you're very poor and you think if they get to the US, it's the land of milk and honey, of course you're going to send your kids. Think about all the Jewish kids in the war where parents had to give up their kids and just give them to people to hide, to transport to other countries so that the children could survive, while the parents knew that by staying in Germany, it was the death sentence. But they sent their kids away for their benefit. So in a way, you can say, yeah, the parents, I can understand the parents, they think they're sending their kids to something better. Of course, a lot of them are getting put into the white slave trade. Who knows what's happening to these poor kids. But the other thing is as well, let's think about it. Apparently, the highest numbers are actually in the age group 13 to 17. So, those ages still qualify as children. But those are teenagers. They are children that can fend for themselves. And the idea is, again, this is what's being published in the newspapers in these Central American countries. Once your kid gets accepted into the US, they're never going to get sent back. And once they're there, then at a certain point, you get the chain immigration. They can have their parents come and they get priority because there's somebody already in America. This is just all so wrong, and nobody's doing anything about it, especially our friends on the GOP side. Nobody's doing anything about it. It's absolutely disgusting. Well, so we spend all these money on these illegals, right? So they're not even supposed to be here. We're spending billions on them, right? Somewhere I read $250 per day per illegal. And I won't just say children, because it isn't just children. There are mothers with 3 or 4 children who come across because they say, well, look at these poor children. But the mother's there as well. Not all mothers send their children without an adult with them. So a lot of the time the mothers are there as well. And don't forget, think about, it's been confirmed, they come across the border, these groups. They don't even try and hide, try and avoid the border patrol. They go looking for the border patrol and offer themselves up to the border patrol because they know that by doing that, they're going to get fed, clothes, how that's what they're being told, but they won't get sent back. So we need to send them back. That's the only money that we should be spending on them and not a plane ticket. I'm not going to put them on a plane with all sorts of other normal people, because, they got lice, they got fleas, they got whatever, all the diseases. No, put them in a military aircraft that we can hose down after we've sent them down there, and they don't necessarily need comfortable seats. Let's just strap them down in these aircraft, send them there, and then throw them out. We need to stop doing this. However, it gets worse, and after the break, I'm going to tell you about that as well. But at the moment, it is time for our last commercial break, so stick with me, folks. I will be back shortly.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more?
Are you paying too much for your car insurance policy? Have you shopped your current plan in the last year? If you haven't, then you probably are paying too much. You could save up to 40% on your current car insurance coverage just by making a free call right now. Doesn't it make good sense to pay less for something you have to pay for anyway? And car insurance is one of those things. You got to have car insurance, whether you have one car or 10 cars. So why not see if you can pay a lot less for it right now? One quick 3-minute call, and you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. We'll compare the leading car insurance companies and get you coverage that could save you up to 40% on your car insurance. Call now for a free quote. Call 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. That's 800-603-9980.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich? Working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare? Having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom112.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom112.com. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom112.com.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And we're into the final segment of the show. Just want to change the topic slightly, but it's still talking about vets. And just some comments that I picked up that some of the whistleblowers have been telling us, and of course the whistleblowers in the VA have been popping out of the woodwork all over, but one of them actually claimed that his supervisor had expressed a desire to see older veterans taken outside and shot in the head. So that's the sort of people who are in the Veterans Administration. And remember, one of the big things is we can't fire any of them. As incompetent, as fraudulent as these people are, it's impossible to fire them. Well, thank goodness some legislators are trying to get a law passed that would make it able to fire these people. But of course, Dingy Harry is in charge, and he's going to sit on it in the Senate. But at least they tried, because we really need to get rid of these bottom feeders in the VA. We need to have good people looking after our veterans. And you say, well, that supervisor didn't really mean it. But let's be honest. During the shutdown of the veterans memorials in D.C., when we had the government shut down, riot police were actually getting pretty rough with the veterans. They're these old World War II veterans, and they were pretty nasty to them. So those supervisors, there are plenty of people that think like them as well. Okay. Some other things. We talked about Dear Leader getting 10 years to life for aiding and abetting the enemy. We talk about the Taliban 5 that were released, but apparently another dozen detainees from a small military prison in Afghanistan have also been released, or repatriated is the word. They've been sent back to Pakistan, because we're winding down in Afghanistan, so we've got to get rid of them. That's very interesting. So they're being sent back to Pakistan. That's very useful, because the Pakistan intelligence service said, "Oh, we'll keep an eye on them. We'll make sure they don't get up to any bad things." Of course, it's the Pakistan intelligence service is one of the biggest supporters of the Taliban itself. So how much do you trust them? Yeah, right. And it's just the same as we released another detainee in Iraq to the Iraqis, and now that person is in charge of ISIS and marching across the country, executing thousands of people left, right, and center. And what happens while that's happening? What does our president do? That's right, he plays another round of golf. Anyway, let's see. Time, we've got a little bit more time, so let's have another topic. And here's some more good news, some interesting news. I don't know if the name Mark Glaze says anything to you. If you watch the news, you probably would have seen him, because he used to be the executive director of Nanny Bloomberg's Every Town for Gun Safety organization. You know, that used to be Mayors for Gun Control or whatever it was, but now it's Every Town for Gun Safety is the name. And he's the one that used to trot out every time there was any kind of mass shooting. He'd go out there and attack the Second Amendment. And the story he used, which of course is the standard regressive thing, that most of the illegal guns used in these crimes would have been contained if we just stopped regular law-abiding people from having guns as well. However, Mark Glaze now has resigned from that organization, and the organization is not doing well, and he had an interview with the Wall Street Journal. In it, he admitted three things: that his organization couldn't be successful, and even if it was successful, it wouldn't help. So the first problem, he said, was due to the fact that Edward Snowden, so typical regressive, it's never their fault, it's always someone else's fault. In this case, it was Edward Snowden was revealing the unconstitutional overreach, and this made people afraid of the government, and therefore not so in favor of registration and background checks, etc. The second one was Obamacare showed that the government is basically totally inept. And the third one, and this was the best one, he said that gun control won't do what they've been saying that it would do. He admitted that. He said many of the mass shootings wouldn't have been stopped by tighter regulations proposed by the gun control advocates, even if they might have prevented other gun crimes, but not the shootings. Okay, folks. We are coming to the end of the show. It is, I hear the music is about to start. And so I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show. I'll say TTFN, ta-ta for now. Please join me next week. And remember, please tell your friends. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.